I don't know if you've ever had the boss come down on you about not meeting your goals. John, where are you at? And we were talking about this on Thursday about how John has goals he has to meet and the pressure of having to meet those goals at work. I don't know if the boss has ever come down on you for not meeting goals, but this guy didn't make his goals. He didn't get where he needed to get, and he got fired. Pretty normal, right? Now, I was trying to figure out how to actually make this story connect with you. And so I had a children's sermon idea, but since there's not a lot of children here today, I'm going to pick on Zach. He can stay where he's at. So here's how the story works, okay? So, Zach, you're playing football now, right? Yeah? All right, so let's imagine you're playing football, and let's imagine your team is doing really, really good tonight, okay? Your team gets the first score. I know that's not quite how the game on Friday, but we'll change that, right? So your team scores once, your team scores twice, team scores 3 times, team scores 4 times, 5 times. The other team hasn't scored a point. You're up, let's say, 48-0. You want to 50-point them. You know that? Do they still have the 50-point rule now, where the game ends at 50 points or not? No? All right, so now you can do whatever you want. Let's 100-point them if we can. So you are up. The game's coming to an end. Your crowd is excited. They are ecstatic. They are raving. Everyone's yelling, "This is the best game ever." And score again, score again, score again. Keep them at 0. Then, just before the game ends, the last snap of the game, the quarterback takes the ball, and one of the other defensive ends breaks through and is running towards the quarterback, and the quarterback tosses the ball at the defensive end. The defensive end catches it and runs to the end zone and makes a touchdown. The most unexpected thing. Zach, why would the quarterback do that? Any ideas? What do you think, everyone? Why would the quarterback felt sorry for the other team? What? He had money on the game? How about this, Zach? How would your team feel if your quarterback did that? What would your dad say to the quarterback? Remember, his dad's one of the coaches. What would happen in the locker room afterwards with the coaches? You imagine this scenario. How would the other team feel? How would that change what happens after the game when they go through and shake hands with each other? We had a team when I was in high school. They had been state champions for 5 years straight. Then they graduated their entire team. And we came in the first game of the next season, and we skunked them, held them to 0. We were ecstatic. How'd they feel? Now here's the question. Let's say, because this is a common thing in Iowa, that our 2 schools closed and I had to go to high school at their school now. That my school closed and we merged and went to their high school. How would I be received? As the person who skunked all those teammates that are going to be now on my team. Not well. This is the manager. He has been working for this wealthy landowner. This is the system in Israel, in the Roman Empire as a whole, that there's wealthy people who they've been buying up all the land, And they put managers in charge of the land, just like you have people who own tons of stores, and they put managers in charge of their individual stores and whatnot. And then this manager, their job is to take care of this various piece of property. And the way that it happens, so very similar to how you've heard about tax collectors, is when they're getting paid, they take a cut for themselves. So it's not like we get a paycheck from the landowner. It's when the people are paying their bills, me as the manager, I get to take a cut for myself. And so anything that's making my owner rich is also making me rich. But my owner, the owner of the land, my master, he's not happy because I should be making $100,000 a quarter, and I'm only making $40,000. And that's a problem. And so he decides to fire me. And this manager, he thinks, how am I going to survive? I can't dig. I'm not strong like some of the people in this congregation. I don't have any skills that are marketable in any way. I'm not willing to go sit on the street and beg. How am I going to survive? And he goes to the debtors and he says, I'm going to take your bill and cut it. But the guess is, what he did is he said, I'm going to take your bill and I'm going to cut out my share. I can't change what you owe my master. I can change the portion that you would have owed to me or whoever's going to replace me. So let's take your bill. You owed 100, I would have gotten 50, that master got 50. Let's cut it down just the 50 that the master gets. You owe 80, let's cut it down to 60. I got the 20 that I would have get, that's gone. You don't owe it anymore. The part you owed to me is gone. And then Jesus says, so make friends by dishonest wealth, in order that when they are to welcome you into the kingdom of heaven, they will. So let's talk about, today after church, we're going to talk about a potential capital campaign and some ideas that the council has been working on with an engineering team. And we've been thinking about what do we want to do in terms of making our facilities better. We know that the one big project, everyone knows the big project is the parking lot, right? You guys don't like walking on that thing. You don't like driving on that thing. You don't like looking at that thing. It needs to change, right? Could have gone simple. Could have gone really simple and just repaved the parking lot. And literally just paved straight over what we got. But then we thought, what we're doing here isn't just about serving the needs of the people who are in the church now. It's about serving the needs of the people who might come to church, the people who might use this facility for other purposes, who might be part of our community and need to feel welcomed. And so we said, if we're going to do the parking lot, we need to make sure the parking lot is accessible to the people that it's currently not accessible to. Because how many times have you guys had to park on the spot that's supposed to be the handicapped spots, and it's a 13-degree incline, and nearly fallen over? And we said, well, if we're going to make the parking lot handicap accessible, then we need to make the ramp handicap accessible. It's a wonderful ramp, but it was put in before the codes were in place, and the codes are saying, no, it's not a wonderful ramp. Right, Bill? It's a difficult ramp, isn't it? There are times where it is hard to go up that thing. And then we said, if we're going to make the ramp handicap accessible, the building needs to be handicap accessible. We can't just look like we're welcoming, get people here, and then have them go, but how do I get in? But I'm telling you, doing all that, for the most part, for most of the people in this congregation, it doesn't serve our needs. Most of the people in this congregation can park here just fine. Most of the people in the congregation can walk up that ramp just fine. Most of the people in this congregation can get inside and use the bathrooms just fine. Most people in this congregation can get anywhere in the building just fine. So why would we do it? Why would we make this building accessible when it's not keeping any one of our members out at the moment? One of my colleagues, she told a story. She said, so I was at the dollar store, we were buying some supplies, and I was talking to the woman at the cashier, and she said, so what are you in town for? We were out visiting somewhere else. And they said, well, we came up to help out with a project. We came up, they needed to build a house or something for a family in need. So we came up, we brought all the supplies, we brought all the tools, we came up and stayed here. And actually, the area that we're staying, we're paying for the cost of staying here and all our food while we're here. And the woman goes, wait, you're volunteering your time and you're paying to do it, and you're providing all the supplies to build someone else a house? Why would you do that? She didn't get it. Why would you go up and invest in building a house for someone 200 miles away whom you have no connection with? There was a story in Iowa this last week. You want to talk about weird business practices? College kid named Carson King, Iowa Stater. This is why I like the story. Carson King, I don't know if you heard this story. Carson King, he, during the Cy-Hawk football game, Iowa State versus Iowa football game, he was in the background of the TV, and he had a sign that he was holding. And the sign said, need beer supply restocked. Venmo, which is a payment system, and then his account name. And people saw that sign, and within a couple hours, he had $300 in his Venmo account. And he decided, he really only was looking for getting the cost of one case of beer. So he decided, I'll take the rest of the money I got, and I will give that money to the Children's Hospital in Iowa City. And that gets found out that what he's doing. And next thing you know, people have given him $175,000. And Venmo and Bush, because he was specifically asking for Bush beer, decided to match. And so the Children's Hospital in Iowa received a donation for over $500,000 in less than a week because he said, I only need the cost of one beer and the rest of the money I will give away. $500,000. And now Bush has a can that has his face on it. That Carson King's face is now on this Bush can that they sent him a case of Bush beer with his face on it, specially printed. Why would he do that, though? He needed money for beer. He's a poor college student. This would have supplied his beer supply for at least a semester. Let's hope. Potentially a whole year. Why would he do that? And why would everyone else jump on board? To give away money because a college kid needed beer. If Jesus were the manager, he were that manager. You imagine the story. This is the Philippian story. It says, Jesus, though he was in the form of God, though he was like the landowner who owned the whole universe, humbled himself and became like a slave, became like one of us who needs to either beg or work in order to live, and then wrote off our entire debt on the cross, paying the cost that we owed God himself. Why would God do this? And Jesus says, because relationships are more important than money. Because relationships are more important than money, and we are to use money for the benefit of relationships and not to use relationships for the benefit of money. And that my relationship, God says, with you is more important than what you owe me. My relationship with you is more important than all the debt that you've racked up over the years. I will give away the house in order to make that relationship happen. I will pay the cost in order that you will feel welcome in the kingdom of God. We're talking about a Catholic campaign. And the question isn't, how do we benefit ourselves and make this congregation better? Though I know there is that thought of, if we improve things, people will see it and feel like they can come here. The question isn't that, though. The question is, how are we going to welcome now those people who currently aren't welcome here because they can't get in the building, so that maybe when we get to the kingdom of heaven and they're the ones who are standing at the pearly gate, guarding the door, they might welcome us. Amen.